Capitalism and greed. Unfortunately.
Unfortunately, they run the world, but that is why we are here. Welcome to the Rogue Academic Podcast. I am delighted to present a conversation I had with TikTok's music law guy, Josh Dreon. If you're looking for the do's and don'ts of producing music in this day and age, look no further than Josh Dreon at Dreon Law. But we didn't stop there. We talked a little bit about life too. And here's Josh. So yeah, super excited to have you on the show. I have loved your TikTok now since, well, and it's a recent TikTok, right? You just started a little while ago, right?
Yes, I just started in August, so it's about 3 months old, I would say.
And you have a ton of followers, like for a really good reason.
Yeah, I'm blessed that it's been working. I guess it's been resonating with people, but yeah, just certain things that have gotten there's you know how it goes on TikTok. There's like a few posts that have gotten most of the followers, and then the rest are like one or two. But
oh yeah. Yeah, it's usually a slow burn. I mean, I've built several TikTok platforms. Like I have my Lexi the Trumpeter TikTok platform, which is about like 4,000, 5,000 followers. But like this is a little known fact. I am also the official Winnie Sanderson of TikTok, and that account has like 400,000 followers. It's a totally different thing. But I became accidentally internet famous, and so then I had to reverse engineer. Like, what does this mean, and how do I leverage it? You know, like
I love that.
Yeah. So
That's cool.
Yeah. Well, and you know, it's funny, considering that we're speaking about like the legality of creative things, that might be a good jumping off point is like when Winifred's account started to really take off, several fellow creators were like, hey, you better put a disclaimer on there because you are really, really close to infringing on Disney's copyright and they are going to come after you and give you a cease and desist. What would it like? They never did reach out. But what would that look like? Or have you had clients where that's happened?
Well, I mean, it's obviously well known that Disney is, crazy about it, and they'll go hard to protect their IP, except for, the recent news where they decided to license all of their IP to
oh my gosh, I think
Sora.
that's gonna be bad.
Yeah.
That's gonna be rule number 34 of the internet bad.
Oh yes, and people were confused because they're like, Disney of all companies, goes insano style to get to protect their IP. So we're like, what's happening? So yeah, I mean, I haven't seen that specifically from. I haven't had like a lot of creators that I represent that have had that issue just because of their names and stuff. But I'm sure I could see you getting close to that. I'm sure they are onto something. Your followers telling you that, but
no, it's
because it's hard. It's hard with a name to say whether or not you're infringing or not. It would have to be just like circumstantial, and you wouldn't really be able to convince Disney that it was like a parody account or something like that. So,
oh yeah, no, it very much sort of what it turned into that because like the story arc for Winifred got very off the beaten path as far as like the original storyline was concerned. So I think an argument could be made. But circling back to like your involvement in creative law. I don't think that's really what it is. But are you also a musician, or like did you come out of the gate going, I'm going to be a lawyer and this is what we're doing?
Yeah, so I am a musician. My path to becoming a lawyer is kind of like a long time coming in life. I was a sassy little preteen, and that's fine that my camera went out.
You're good.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
It's great that happens. It probably won't. You want me to turn it back on for the sake of this? Sorry.
I mean, I can. I'm happy to listen. I would just be talking to this lovely like screen.
Let me. Yes. So my path to becoming a lawyer, and yes, I am a musician. Me becoming a lawyer was a long time coming. I was as a kid, I was told by everybody that I was a really good arguer, which would often get me in trouble.
Of course.
And so I was like, I'm trying to think of what I want to be when I grow up, and I always wanted to be a singer. I was really into all the big singers as a kid, like Celine Dion, Whitney Houston, and Mariah Carey. Those were my go-tos in the 90s.
I mean, I think that was a lot of people's go-tos in the 90s.
Yes. And I was like, I want to be like that. But, as I got older, I was like, oh, I got to start actually thinking about what I want to do in life. And so I don't know why being a lawyer always was intriguing to me.
Yeah.
probably just the arguing thing because I like to do
I
that.
get paid to do what I
Uh,
love, which is why people get into music if we're all being honest. We definitely
yes.
don't go into it for the money. It's like I want to be paid to tinker with this weird instrument for the rest of my life. I play with
Exactly.
plumbing for a living.
Yeah, you have to be passionate
Yeah.
to deal with the low pay for sure. And yeah, and like in the lawyer thing, I never even thought about the pay when I was younger. But then,
Oh, wow.
then I had like a weird patch in life where I was like, I decided to start learning about producing music and recording music, and I was kind of like not in college, and I just didn't know what I was doing. And so then I just was like, I think the best option for me is to just finish up at undergrad and go to law school.
Nice. Right on.
Yeah, and so I thought about it, and I was like, I want the best of both worlds. I do still want to be able to create music, so I decided to go to Los Angeles for law school
Mm.
because I figured I'd be around musicians, songwriters, producers that could help me figure out how to do that because I really didn't know the first thing about like doing it professionally, to be
Oh, okay.
honest.
Hmm.
Yeah, so that brought me to Los Angeles in 2016, and that's where I went to law school, and that's where I got into really taking my artist project more seriously and doing it in the non-existent free time I had in law school.
Of course, because that's what everyone does. We all go after really rigorous degrees and then are like, I want to do other things. I mean, like I was touring when I was finishing my doctorate. I finished my doctorate from the road. Like I was doing coursework in Airbnbs. Like that is so relatable.
Wow, that's impressive because yeah, I can't imagine
Mm.
having to do that. I
Yeah,
barely made it through law school, so
that's also relatable. No, it took me like 7 years to finish the research for my doctorate, partially
wow.
because I was on the road, but also because I just friggin' loved the research. I was just a nerd about it, and I was in Philly at the time. My research is on big band terminology and symbols, and so I was in the perfect area to look at old charts. I could go to the Library of Congress, I could go to the Smithsonian, those sorts of things. So it was just sort of like a perfect situation for the research, but I loved it so much I didn't want it to end. I'm like, oh, can I just do this for the rest of my life? The answer's no, apparently. There's a time limit on a doctorate. I found that one out the hard way. So did you, like, regarding law school then, like what, I mean, obviously you're a Juris Doctor, but are there subcategories of Juris Doctor? Like, could you be a, like, music specific Juris Doctor, or how does that work?
Yeah, not quite. This is kind of like a common misconception I get
Hmm.
asked all the time when I tell people I do music law. They're
Hmm.
like, "Oh, is that a special school or something?" I see why people would think that. No, you can get everybody gets the same Juris Doctor degree across the board. Everyone has the same degree, and then you can have specialty areas in your field. So it doesn't really mean anything, if you will,
Mm.
significantly for the practice. It's not like in medicine, if you were to become board certified plastic surgeon, how then
Right.
you're more well trusted in your area to do plastic surgery.
Mm.
It's more just sort of like a thing that meaning that you learned more.
Yeah.
So we had I went to Southwestern Law School, which is a lesser known school in Koreatown of Los Angeles. But
Oh,
I
I bet
chose
you
to
the
go
food
there.
was amazing.
Oh, I had never, coming from St. Louis, I had never even had Korean food before. I didn't know anything about Korean barbecue, and I fell in love, of course.
Obviously. Oh my gosh, totally.
It was like right across from our law school, literally across from my dorms, because they had like law school dorms we lived in, kind of a thing. It was like a Korean barbecue place that was open late, and we were there
Oh, perfect for
all
like
the time.
late study and all of that stuff too.
So great. It was so great.
That's what's up.
And yes. So I chose to go there because they are well known for their entertainment program. That's one of the things that they do well. They pump out district attorneys and entertainment attorneys. It's a very interesting mix.
That is an
Yeah.
interesting mix. I definitely wouldn't have seen that coming.
Yeah, many of the district attorneys will randomly have gone to Southwestern in Los Angeles. Yeah, and so there they do have designations you can get, such as like music specialty. I don't remember the technical terms at this point, and so it really just meant that you took certain courses. You know how it is, and then and so that way you're more of an expert in it or whatever.
Hmm.
I didn't actually end up getting any designations because I didn't care enough. I just I was like, I'm just trying to survive this thing.
Oh, that is so
I
real.
I'm not an I like to think I'm a pretty smart person, but I'm not an academic in any way, shape, or form. So the
Right.
whole school thing is just like a lot for me.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I took the music classes, but I didn't do all of the classes to get the designation. So I
Right.
didn't get to
Okay.
say that at the end. But
No, no,
yeah,
no. It's all good. I mean, there's a lot of musicians that I would deem like some of the smartest people I've ever met, who like failed out of music theory. And it's just like,
yeah,
dude, like you're an actual bona fide genius, and this is not hard. Like, what the
yeah.
hell? But no, same thing. It's just like they were not interested in that aspect of the music life, and so they're like, no, I want to compose stuff, or no, I want to just play the shit out of my instrument. It's the same thing.
Yeah, yeah, school just does not work for some people's brains.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
But you're obviously the other side of things where you're clearly the academic type because that's usually the type who go into the PhD thing, right?
Yeah, well, yes and no. I mean, my story, I mean, is sorted and interesting in its own way. I basically did the doctorate because I did 2 master's degrees, and I was like, well, screw it. I'm this close to being doctor anyway. Let's see if I get into doctoral school. And I auditioned at 4 different schools, and I was like, okay, if I get into the school I want to get into, which was IU, I'll do it. And if I don't, I'm just gonna go play. And sure enough, I got into IU. That's where that thing's from.
Nice.
And I had the absolute best time, like being a doctoral student. I kind of cheated the system in that, like, I'm an ultra high functioning autistic person. Class has never been hard for me, and I'm not meaning that
Mm,
in an asshole look at me, I'm so fucking smart kind of way. It's
no.
actually kind of the opposite of that. It's not that I'm particularly smart, it's that I'm really good at pattern recognition, and most
Mm,
tests are just patterns. Like,
yes.
so like once you figure out what the strategy is from the instructor, you really don't even have to know the material that well. You could just be like, okay, well, this is kind of what they're going for, so I'm going to get as close to the mark as I can without actually studying, which worked in
Mm.
basically every aspect of a doctorate except music theory. Those cats will hold your toes to the fire because it's all math.
Mm.
And I was like, well, fuck. I'm bad at math.
Same.
Oh my god. So
You would totally pass the bar, by the way, then, because that's
I
what it all
thought
comes
about
down
it.
to with that. It's all patterns, and
Dude, I
who
I have
can remember.
legit thought about, and this is a shitty. Okay. I don't want to say it's shitty. It is a snarky aspect of where I live on the autism spectrum. I used to go do job interviews and take certification tests for fun. I would just
That's
pay
amazing.
money to be like, this is a thing I don't know about. Let me study for 5 minutes and see if I can pass the test. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, that's pretty dope, though. Honestly, I
It's
think that's
funny,
awesome.
right? Like for a minute I was certified in insurance sales in like 6 different states because I could
Oh
just
my
take
god.
their test and ace it. Like,
Wow.
again, it's not that the subject area is all that difficult. It's just test taking is easy for me. But we're here to talk about you. So, I found you on TikTok. I am
Mhm.
so fucking grateful that you started a TikTok. And I know that there's probably lots of musicians in your DMs going, "Thank you for fucking talking about this. We need this," because no one bothers to tell us about this shit in music school. They focus on basically anything that is not making money. I mean, they'll give you a ton of skills to like make music and produce music and well, not even production if you're a performance major. Um, but they give you no tools to actually make music and keep yourself safe while doing so. Um,
Mhm.
so my question to you is, like, how long have you been on TikTok? Like, have you been using the app at all, or?
So since I'm also a musician, as I mentioned on the side, for years have of course been hearing. I don't do that, full time. It's a side thing, but I do like try at it a little bit,
Yeah.
when I have the again non-existent free time, and
Sure.
I and so years, for years we've all been hearing as artists that you got to use TikTok, you got to use TikTok, and
Right.
there's just so many artists that are against it, and I understand why because it's just not the short form content thing is just so the opposite of the creative process for so many people. But anyway,
Yeah.
I so I got on there years ago as a musician and I was trying to do it and it was just I had no idea what to do. I was doing
Yeah.
random things that didn't matter and trying to get followers and I was like I hate this.
Hmm.
And so I and I try to limit social media use for myself as much as possible. It's very hard to do as once you're on social media, you're like
Oh,
I
they
got
make
to
it
have it on
addictive
my
on purpose.
phone. Yes, and you're just
Mhm.
going on to check how your video performance did for the day, but like there's the feed
Mhm,
and
and
there's
then you get
the,
sucked down a rabbit hole. Yeah, it's the worst.
mhm. So I'm like, I try not to, but it's very hard with that. So I'm much more of a YouTube person. I always
Mm,
have been really into the YouTube side of things. I
mhm,
really like how and I like how it works for creatives a little bit more because I feel like they can tell a better story on there. But
right.
TikTok is what it is. So I had been working on this class with my colleague, client friend of mine, all the titles, and we were working on a class that we recently launched called the Ultimate Music Registration Bootcamp. And shameless plug there, but yeah,
Be
it
shameless. That's why we're here.
it just because we honestly did it. I know everybody has a class on the internet. I get it. And we're not just another like, oh, let's make a class, just make a class. We honestly did it because for years, she's a professional songwriter,
Mm,
very successful in her field. And so she's got a ton of clients in that field or that area. And I have all my clients. And for years, we get asked all the time about registering music and how it works and all these crazy questions about it. And people
mhm.
don't understand the first thing about it. So we're
Oh yeah,
like, we answered this all the time, so we just need to make this a thing.
yeah.
And so I've actually been wanting to do YouTube for years.
Mm,
It's kind of been like a passion of mine, so I am kind of getting into that as well because I like the longer form stuff, like I mentioned.
mhm.
So I was like, I don't know, let's just get on all the apps to try to promote this class when it
Sure.
comes out. And that's literally how it started. So in
Uh huh.
August, I was like, all right, let's just hop on TikTok and see how this goes. And took me the longest time to come up with the name Music Law Guy because I was going back and forth,
I think that's
you know
actually
how.
part of the charm is that it's so unassuming. You
Oh
know what I
yeah.
mean?
Oh, I'm glad to hear that.
No, no. I mean, so like you went through law school, I went through doctoral school. There's a lot of pomposity in both of those places, right?
Mhm,
Like you hear the term lawyer and everybody immediately gets scared. Like I'm sure
mhm.
like people were just like, "Oh god, he studies law. I can't talk to him." Right? Like you're intimidated because of the degree, right? Same thing for,
Yeah.
doctoral students. Like I would have undergraduates like terrified to ask me to play in their ensembles because as a doctoral student at IU, you don't have to be in any ensembles. So people can just ask you to play ad hoc. People were terrified because I was a doctoral student. Oh no, she's too
Mhm.
fancy to play in my ensemble. I'm like, dude, you're doing Afro-Cuban music. I am in. Like, it's fine. So I
Yeah.
actually really thought that that was like an excellent marketing strategy of yours to just be very unassuming with the title. I'm the music law guy.
I no, that makes me so happy to hear because like I have the problem, as I'm sure many creatives do, of
Yeah.
suffering from the perfectionism disease and
Yep.
never actually putting something out in the world because I'm like, oh God, people aren't gonna like it, or it's gonna
Right.
make me look. I was like, Music Law Guy, that's a great idea. And then the next week I'd be like, oh, it's a terrible name. Everyone's gonna think it's so stupid. So eventually I just was like, all right, I'm just gonna go try it and
Right.
then we'll see what happens. And I guess, yeah, I mean, I guess it resonated with people, but
Yeah,
um,
absolutely. Um,
yeah.
so regarding TikTok and social media use of music and whatnot, um, I was early to the game on TikTok. And so like my very limited knowledge of copyright law made it so that I was just like, okay, this kind of makes sense. They can use 59 seconds, but not 60 seconds of whatever the fuck they want because that is, what is it, fair usage, right?
Eh.
Eh.
And it isn't, but that's what they tried to argue at first. Yes.
Well, and I'm one of those nerds that I read the terms and conditions because I'm a dork.
Mhm.
And I'm like, okay, this makes sense. It seems a little sketchy. It seems a little like on the edge. Can you speak to like what's actually in the terms and conditions in TikTok and like how that all works?
Yeah, a little bit. I'm not like super well versed in the actual terms and conditions themselves, but
Sure.
I do know that yeah, what you're describing is that was TikTok's early attempt to kind of skirt the system and just argue like, well, it is fair use. It's kind of like what Suno is up to these days with their AI arguments.
Right.
They were kind of just like, well, I mean, it's not that much, so you shouldn't be compensated for it. But fair use and well and they were and it's kind of it also goes along with this thing called de minimis use in copyright law where you can use like a small snippet of something and you
Okay.
don't have to really it's not really considered infringement, but it's such a gray area. But using music on an app where it's commercialized and there's monetization, I mean, in any amount, even a few seconds, there's really not going to be an argument that it's fair use ever.
Hmm.
So that's kind of why the music industry pushed back so hard from,
Mhm.
because I think TikTok really blew up in 2019, I would say, right?
Totally.
2018.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was well,
And
because it was just perfect timing during the pandemic. Everyone was bored, so we're just like, "Ooh, what's this thing? Dopamine, yay."
yes, and that's why they have like a billion followers overnight. I know. And so so the music industry was just, that's why they pushed back so hard, because, the labels and the publishers and everybody were like, no, actually, this is not going to work for us, which, it's understandable from the copyright owner's standpoint, of
Mhm.
course, that the user is generating an audience, or they're creating an audience out of it. They're potentially getting paid from the
Mhm.
views. They're directing their audience to other paid things. So, the music is being used commercially, right? So,
Mhm.
but of course, that the hard part for people was like when you're not really like trying to be an influencer and you're just on the app as a regular person just dancing to a song, and it's like, is it infringement? Is it whatever?
Right?
And that's why I'm a big fan of the platforms doing the right things and not leaving it up to the users to have to figure it out, because the users are just like trying to come on there to just have a good time and
Yeah.
whatever, and they shouldn't have to be the copyright experts. It should be the app's responsibility. So
Yeah, absolutely. So do you feel like TikTok has done the right things, the wrong things? What are your thoughts there?
yes, I think that we're in a much better place with TikTok now. They don't really have a choice to skirt the system anymore. So thank God. But they have licensing with ASCAP and BMI and CSAC, which are the performing rights organizations, because there's a performance aspect to compositions when they get played or when they get used. So they have that down. They have the mechanical side of things. They have the micro sync side of things, because we call them micro syncs. It's like, because it's being used in connection with a video, and
Sure.
so they have licensed all that stuff properly. Now the amount that they're licensing it for is, minuscule little pieces of dirt on the ground, but
Mhm.
at least it's licensed correctly.
Right.
But yeah, so they've done the right thing in the sense of that, and I think most of the social media apps have finally caught up to that, whether it's Meta or YouTube, and Meta and YouTube were ahead of the game with their content ID systems,
Mhm.
with actually being able to identify the use of the music.
Sure.
TikTok was later to that, and such. So yeah, I think it's better now. It's much
Hmm.
better than it was. There's still definitely gaps that I'm not, thrilled with, but
Yeah, right. Do some of those gaps kind of like fall into the category of like the top things that people like bug you about? I would imagine just like any other, service field. Because really, I mean, even though people are afraid of lawyers, it is a service, right? We're seeking to
Mhm.
help people. Um, and anybody who's worked in a service industry for 5 minutes knows that there are like five go-to things you're just going to be asked about constantly, and you just get used to reiterating yourself. So, like, can you speak to some of that a little bit?
Yeah, no, definitely. Uh, the main things I get asked about, kind of what I was mentioning a minute ago, with is the registration thing. So many, because I work with so many indie songwriters, artists, producers, and they just don't understand the first thing about registration,
Right.
which is why, like, if they go to school for this, any kind of school, I'm just like, they got to teach people the registration side of things. It's crazy.
I went to 12 years of music school at the graduate level, or sorry, 12 years of music school total. And not once, not in one semester of any of that was I required to take any sort of music or performance industry law course, which is
It's
probably why you're
crazy.
getting a lot of people signing up for your class.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm just like, and I know it sounds so cliche and cheesy, but like I genuinely just want to help. Like obviously we're charging for it because we put in a lot of time and effort, but
Well,
I'm like,
yeah.
I'm really the type of person where I'm just like, I just want you guys to have the information for the love of God, because you're missing out on money, and I hear about it every day of my life, and I'm like, oh my God, stop. And
Yeah.
yeah, and that's the thing. Like, especially coming from the world you're in, which is like you're a live instrumentalist, and that whole world of not just in songwriting, people don't even think about the composers and the scorers for TV, film, and all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
There's so much intricacy to registering those things with the performing rights organizations, and so many people don't know you have to, and how to do it when you're like a conductor and you're registering the works that have been done, the arrangements, like all this kind of stuff, right? And there's
Hmm.
that's how you get paid, and that's how a lot of people make a lot of money, but so many people don't even realize that you have to do it. So
Hmm.
it bugs me that people that have gone to actual school, that they won't even like take a second to address that. I'm like, when you get out in the real world, if you do this for a living,
Right.
you need to make money
Right.
from it. And here's a big source of your revenue, like performing rights organizations. That's a big source of revenue for a lot of people.
Oh
And
yeah.
they just don't realize how much, if
Hmm.
you're, especially if you're live,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
So is that like your top request, as far as just like, hey, music law guy, I need help with this? Like it'd be registration.
If it's on social media, I get a lot of DMs from people who are just like, "Hey, I need your help," and it usually just ends at that. And I'm
Hmm.
like, "Okay, that could mean a lot of things. So
Right?
send me an email, please, and then
Yeah.
we'll talk about it." but but generally, people are reaching out to me to honestly, the number one way that I get that I have gotten clients throughout the years is because they regret signing something and they come to me
Mm.
to reverse it.
Wait, you mean there's predatory contracts out there that are like taking advantage of musicians?
Yes, shocking
Yes.
concept. I know. It's crazy.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, tell us a little bit more about that because I think a lot of our listeners, especially from the academic side, right? They, of course, never teach us anything about music law whatsoever. But there are a lot of musicians especially from academia, that go out and think, "Oh my gosh, I have this amazing, record contract with so and so, and yay!" But
Mhm.
it's usually like, "Oh wait, they're gonna exploit me for like 12 years, and I have to produce, and I'm not gonna get any money." Tell us about that.
Yes, yes, you hit the nail on the head, and not only that, but it's solely in their discretion whether they ever wanna release your music or not, and you have no
Mhm.
say. Yeah, it's so much. Yeah, I am very much definitely being a musician and an artist myself. I am very much an artist advocate first, and so I'm always trying to look out for the smaller guy. I represent labels and publishers and all of that, but and I do my best to try to make everything as fair as possible when I am
Mhm.
working with them too for the artist side. But yeah, I've gotten many people over the years who reached out to me who said, I should have hired you first, but I didn't want to pay the money and I signed the thing. And so now I'm coming to you. And I'm like, it's okay. It's all a learning lesson and let's see what we can do.
Mhm.
And every situation is different. But yeah, it's a common trend in this industry. And kind of with what you're saying, it makes sense, especially when people are starting out when they're young. I see it all the time when
Mhm.
they're fresh to LA or Nashville or New York and they're, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and
Yep.
someone's like, I can get you in the room if you just sign this thing. I because even when they do come to me with these deals,
Mhm.
a lot of times when they're young like that, they'll be like, I really just want to sign it. I really just want to sign it. So I hope you don't tell me there's anything crazy in there because I just want to sign it. And I'm like, we got to take a breath because I got to ask you all the questions that they never think about. And this is what like a lot of music lawyers that I've studied under
Mhm.
taught me to do, which is to just stop and ask, like, what are you actually trying to accomplish with this thing?
Mhm.
And can it help you accomplish your goals? I mean, it's a crazy concept,
Right?
but I
Weird.
mean, they just get so caught up in this idea that signing an agreement with any semi-legitimate company is going to make them famous or something overnight. And I'm like, quite the opposite in most cases. And it can ruin your career.
Mhm.
So I see it all too often and some incredibly predatory agreements and some, less than others, of course. But yeah, it's a common thing. I have people coming to me being like, whoops, can you help me out of this thing? And I'm like,
Whoopsies.
oh, we'll try, but it is legally binding.
Oh,
So
woof. Oh my gosh. So registration, let's read our contracts. Is there like a third sort of like, oh my gosh, I see this all the time and it just makes me want to like tear my hair out kind of thing?
well, the really just the lack of ownership that these people have in their work that they don't realize. So many people don't realize this too. This is something that I would also want people to learn in
Hmm.
school if they went to school
Mhm.
would be about copyright and ownership because it's very confusing even though it's quite simple. But the whole work for hire concept
Mhm.
and whether somebody actually owns something or not. And so since I'm working with a lot of artists and sometimes they're their own label and whatnot, I'm like, do you have signed paperwork with the producers and with anybody else who collaborated on this thing? And they're
Mhm.
like, no, do I need that though? I own the master. I paid them for it. And I'm like, well, you don't actually own the master under copyright law. Then you both own the master, which most
Mhm.
people just don't realize. So it's very important to make sure that ownership is properly handled and obviously, and especially if you're your own artist or your own indie label, and then you're going to upstream these to a major label, like under a record deal someday or something.
Mhm.
you definitely need to be able to prove ownership is all taken care of properly.
Oh,
And
totally.
so I see that all the time too. And that's a big reason why they hire me to work on stuff too, is to handle the clearance, the backdated clearance, which is to go back and be
Mm,
like, that album you released last year, we just need to get paperwork in place.
right.
And I know people can roll their eyes and be like, oh, it's just a lawyer and it's their job to put paperwork in place. But I'm like, no, it literally matters for you owning your shit. So
Yeah. Right? No,
it's
totally. And
important.
they do not at all educate us about these things. Something that I've run into recently that has been absolutely maddening. So I do a lot of remote recording, and the stuff that I like to do for myself is actually creative covers of things. And I ran
Mhm.
into this issue recently, which is something I wanted to ask you about anyway, but I think for the benefit of our listeners, it might be helpful. So I put together a cover. It is completely instrumental. There are no lyrics. It is of a popular tune by a popular artist, and I licensed it. And because I am moderately educated in all of these things, I did what I could to make sure that all of my T's were crossed and my I's were dotted, and that's fine. And so,
Love that.
and I have done this so many times for like marching band
Mhm.
arrangements and athletic band arrangements. Like, I'm familiar with the process. So, like, I did that. And so I went to, distribute this, via at this point it was Lander, which was suggested by a friend who works at Sweetwater. um I went to, distribute it. And despite the fact that I had met all of their criterion, they wouldn't let it out the door
Hmm.
because a computer had scanned it and said that there's third party information in it. And I'm like, yeah, it's a cover.
Hmm.
No shit. Of
Hmm.
course, your AI computer is not putting it together that, like, yes, this is someone else's intellectual property. I am acknowledging that it is someone else's intellectual property, and this is my take on it. That argument went on for like a good month.
Hmm.
At which point I was just like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to go to a different distributor, and we're just going to do this like the old fashioned way. We're going to go find a human that will actually listen to it and be like, yes, you have done all the right things. Here you go. And so I'm in the middle of actually distributing via CD Baby now.
Mm.
But
Mhm.
so what are your thoughts on this, like, liberal AI use in distribution? Like, is it a helper? Is it a hindrance? Like, are you hearing about issues with distribution this way?
Yeah, this is something.
Right?
They
It just, oh, it made me want to tear my hair out. I was just like, what the fuck, you guys? Of course it's third party material.
Yeah, no, and that's frustrating and crazy because unless the computer detects that you used AI to create the cover, which even
I played
still, I
all
mean,
the
that's its
instruments
own.
myself minus the rhythm section.
Oh, that's which is incredibly impressive, and I'm sure you did, and so that's the thing, right? Like, they're under law, the compulsory license and all that stuff.
Right?
They have to let you release it as long as you've licensed it correctly,
I
and
did.
to I don't think a lot of people understand this part about the cover before we get into the other part, which is
Yeah.
that if you weren't selling digital downloads or physical copies of the covers, you don't actually even need to do anything technically when it comes to licensing to release a cover, because all you're really worried about in the publishing world is the mechanicals and the other royalties being paid out. Well, if you release just to Spotify, for example,
Hmm.
they handle paying all those out to
Hmm.
to the necessary parties. So you kind of could just release a cover. The only reason that these distributors may say, you need to get a license or whatever, is because they all also deliver to stores like iTunes where you could still download it and such. And so if that happens, then they technically have to pay the publishers their portion of the mechanical. That's the whole thing. I have said for years, I would love if one of these distributors, if they're all listening out there, to make an option where you can release a cover to streaming only
Yeah.
and leave out the sales, because then it takes off some of the headache for this, because you don't have to do anything licensing wise ever. You
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
release
And
the
that is
sales
all
and
I
they
want
do
to
it.
do as a cover artist. Is it's just like, look, I did a cover. It's fun. I don't expect to make money on this shit. I just do it for fun.
Exactly, and I think a lot of people want to do that. I've had that desire too, but I'm just like, if you release enough covers, I'm like, you got to keep paying for the license, and it's a lot every year. But yeah, so I haven't heard about specific issues yet from clients when it comes to this stuff, except people having their music taken down, which is a big problem from the DSPs because of claims of bot streams and such that they're
Right.
using AI to try to detect.
Mhm.
I always have to remind my clients in these situations, because they will always come to me and say, "I didn't." I didn't pay for any bots, I didn't hire anybody, I didn't do anything. And I'm like, did you go on any website that said music promo service package promising X amount of stream range? Like, because
Mhm.
all of those, okay, not all of those, I can't say that technically, but most of those are gonna say on those websites, music promo, they promise like, a range, 100,000 to 150,000 streams or whatever. If they're promising too specific of a range, it's probably a bot farm, even when they say it's not bots.
Mhm.
And so they're putting you in the line of fire with all these DSPs to get your music taken down. And so there's very few actual legitimate ways to promote your music. And I tell everybody to avoid those kind of like random, you just Googled music promo and you clicked on it and paid for their package. So
Mhm.
I do see that problem a lot with the AI detection.
Mm.
I I do think AI, obviously the AI is necessary just because the amount of music they're uploading
Mhm.
to try to detect other AI. That
Mm.
that I understand, right? Because the whole thing that's going on right now in the industry is this question of fingerprinting outputs from Suno and those
Mhm.
others, right? And with like silent fingerprinting. So I do think it's necessary because I think that the DSPs at some point are going to have no choice but to have to label things as AI as best as possible, give people probably the opportunity to opt out of listening to
Mhm.
AI generated music if they want to, because I know that's
Right.
a big thing. And so I think they're going to need the AI and to detect a lot of things, but it still is strange to me when you say that about the cover because I like again, unless it thought that it was an AI cover, the only reason I bring that up specifically is
Yeah.
because you most people that would be doing an AI cover, that's blatantly copyright infringement at this
Right.
point. Because if you go on
Obviously.
Suno and you're like, make me a cover of blah blah blah, that's automatically just like, nope, you can't do that.
Yeah.
And the other way would be if you actually drop the original song into Suno and you say, now make me a version of this. That's also very much copyright infringement that you can't do.
Yeah.
So in those instances, I would understand if like a distributor was like, yeah, no, we think you made this based on copyrighted material, blah blah. Blah. But it's very strange that they detected that way for you
Yeah.
because I don't understand that
Yeah,
and
it was
should
so
not
dumb.
happen.
And like one of the groups that I work with has had like AI problems with covers sounding too close to originals. So like
Mm,
I work with an a cappella group and primarily what they do is covers. They don't write any of their own music or anything. And they have had distribution issues with AI going, "Oh, well you're just releasing someone else's music." No, we sang it.
mhm.
Like, okay, so we sound like the Pentatonics. That's kind of the point.
Yeah.
Could we just release it? And the answer from their distributor was no, because like it kept
Hmm.
flagging the AI saying like, nope, you're trying to release music that's not yours. No, we're just really good. Let us be good.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. And I'm assuming this is probably something that you're talking has happened in the last like year or
Yes.
two or something,
Yes.
right? Because yeah, because they've all integrated these new systems and yeah, no, that's super frustrating because yeah, you can make a sound alike all you want in this life if
Mhm.
you want. I mean, I mean, there's been famous litigation in history which is actually quite interesting
Oh,
on this kind of issue where like a long time ago labels thought that they could bully people into being like, actually, you can't make a song that sounds just like the master we own. But the courts were like, no, it's a different master. So you can.
what? That's interesting.
Yeah, but there's definitely restrictions around that they try to put in place around like if you're the actual artist or the producer who made it, as we know famously from Taylor Swift, right?
Exactly.
You can't create sound alikes until your time period's up. But for the rest of the public, that is crazy because it's like, yeah, you can make something sound exactly the same as another song that came out if you want to, as long as it's not the same master, it's a cover and you're
Right?
good to go. So it's so weird with these DSPs and these distributors you're talking about because they all just hide behind the guise of this like, oh, it's our terms of service, it's our discretion, so we can say whatever we want. And you're like, but you're kind of not actually complying with my rights under copyright law. So
Right?
I don't love that.
Oh my gosh. No, totally. So obviously, like in your line of work, you find a lot of musicians who have significant gaps in their knowledge as far as, what like I mean, what their rights even are, etc., like what things to look out for. So if you were going to design a class, let's say, I mean, and I guess we could talk about your class, that you have designed in order to solve this problem. What are some of the things that you're covering and what do you think is most important for people to like get their minds around?
Yes, so much stuff, but I'll make it simple for people.
Go for it. I mean, we
Um,
have lots of time.
So our class is quite simply just it's just an online course that's just I'm showing you how to register in all the places, and I'm explaining what each registration process is. So I go through ASCAP and BMI, show you how to set up accounts and register, go through the MLC, Mechanical Licensing Collective, Harry Fox Agency, Sound Exchange, which is a big one, and then Song Decks, which is music reports, and a few others that are in there. And we're going to be adding units as we go because we think there's more kind of to talk about. And now with the whole AI thing, not to get on a tangent, but there's a whole world of people needing to register with the Copyright Office that they never needed to before. So, probably going to add that at some point too. So that's very much just the registration side of things. And that is a big issue, but that's what we talk about in there. If I was designing a course, like especially at a university, I would just want to have creatives learn how to be their own business as a creative, because it's kind of what we were getting at earlier. You learn the creative aspects in school, the music theory and all the other things, but you don't learn anything about business. And this is not just a problem with music school, by the way. This is a problem with all school.
Yeah.
I'm like, we should all be learning how to run a business in life from an early age, because it's actually a really good skill to have.
Well, we live in a capitalist society, yet we teach no one how to actually run a business. Like, what the fuck sense does that make?
I know. Well, if you ask certain people, they'd say it's all part of the plan.
Oh yeah, tinfoil hat time. Yeah, they want.
I'm not going to get into that.
Oh my gosh, but we could talk for hours on that.
Oh, I know, and I don't think it's entirely crazy to say that there's a little bit of purposefulness there, but because it is, I do buy the idea that it is easier for people to just go out in the world and be a good worker bee and do what they gotta do, and but it is strange, to your point, that we're like, capitalism, start your own business, be an entrepreneur, but no one knows the first thing about it or taxes or anything. And so
oh my gosh, right.
And this is the point with music, and this is what I tell everybody that I work with, is you are your own business. You are a self-employed person. You are a business, and you have all the same things another business has to worry about, income and expenses and taxes and contracts and all these things. And so that would be the biggest thing for sure, would be building a business as a creative person, and what it looks like to be smart as you build, because that's another thing that I deal with a lot of my clients. They want a record deal, or they want a distribution deal where they're going to get a certain amount of money under it, right? And obviously everybody wants the money to be as high as possible under the deal, because that sounds nice, and I get it. But I always ask them, and I'm like, but we have to talk about what do you actually need the money for? Do you need the money to live off of? Is this you're going to eat or not eat off of this? Because it's I understand if that's the case, and you need to be able to make your art, and you need that money to supplement. But some people have day jobs already, and they're paying their bills, and this money is just to supplement marketing or promo push or whatever. And I'm like, what we don't want to do is get you into a $300,000 hole from day one because you just wanted more money. I'm like, if we only need to take a smaller amount of money, and then let's be very smart about how we spend the money, right? Look at each song that you release as a product that you want to make a profit off of, right? This is something, there's an artist named Nick D, N-I-C, and then D at the end. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's a pretty famous rapper, singer. He went viral for the last few years. He's gone on a lot of podcasts recently, and I love what he talks about, which is that he's been very strategic about looking at his music as that kind of a business thing, where he's like, I invest a small amount of money into the song and the promo, and if it starts to do well to where it justifies it, then I'll make a music video to put out. But I'm not going to go spend the money on a $10,000 music video if it's not necessary, right?
Well, and work smarter, not harder. I mean, that's the takeaway, really.
Exactly. But I think with creatives, it's obviously very easy for them to get carried away with thinking, I need an expensive flashy video, and I need an expensive this and that, and I need a really expensive studio and an expensive producer. And it's like, yeah, that sounds good in theory, but you just have to be smart about it at the end of the day, so that you don't stifle yourself. And I just feel like so many of them aren't trained to think of it that way at all. And so that's what I would want them to learn for sure, is just think of yourself as a business, be smart about this. You're still allowed to be creative. It doesn't mean it has to get in the way of that, but be smart, to your point, about what you do with it. And that, and then in the same sort of vein is that I would want a class to talk about self-promotion that actually works in this industry, because all the artists, especially I'm sure if they come out of school, they're all just got to be on TikTok, and I think that's about it. And it's like,
Oh yeah.
no, I think you could have a whole course, a whole semester on genuine ways that you can actually use marketing to your
Oh,
advantage, like as a creative,
absolutely. Well, and no one talks about the notion that different audiences have different like promotional niches that are going to be more successful than others. I spoke with
Hmm.
another musician who's primarily a classical musician, and the way she promotes herself and goes about getting her business running on all cylinders is very, very different from someone like me, who is primarily like a performer, recording artist, like that kind of thing. Like, I am a behind the scenes musician. I am not a soloist. I am the person that will make whatever it is that you're working on sound like you hired Jerry Hay, but you didn't have to hire Jerry Hay, right?
Love that.
Very different set of promotion. Like, I'm not going out and trying to get grants for things. I'm trying to work with producers and studios and like, hey, you should hire me because I'm awesome. That's a whole different
Mhm.
thing than, look at me, I'm a classical like soloist and I want to front your orchestra. Totally
Sure.
different niche of promotion, and no one talks about it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and that's a really great point. I didn't even really think about that too.
Yeah.
And and then within that also, just the way that everybody kind of thinks, like no matter what genre you're in or no matter what kind of music you make, that it's all the same strategy even online, like with short form content or long form content. And it's like, no, to your point, like you're telling a story to a vastly different group of people each, depending on what you do and all that. And it's like that's just marketing 101. But
Hmm.
so it's almost like I feel like musicians should just go through regular marketing classes that, marketing majors go through, because
Right.
it's kind of like a brilliant thing to learn
It
about,
is.
like how to reach people. So yeah, no, it's a huge problem. And I don't really fault the creatives for it, because it's like it is kind of not something that you really think to learn about out there when you're starting your career, like how to properly market myself. And a lot of times they just want to make the music and be creative, but
Yeah.
it's important. It's
Yeah, and I
important.
think what that comes down to is that like so many music schools, if we're just speaking of music specifically, like they teach from a
Mhm.
conservatory model where they're trying to create other like little cogs in the music machine. Traditionally that's been orchestras, or
Mhm.
massive like big deal choirs. And they don't, being that that's the case, like they're trying to create little clones of themselves to go take over positions in orchestras or whatever. They don't really think about marketing because it's an audition process. Why do you need to market? You
Mm.
just go win auditions. And
Right.
like one of the like statistics that I've kind of built the Rogue Academic on is, that we graduate 82,000 performance majors a year for, if we're
Mm.
talking about an orchestra and we're talking about one instrument, like at tops 100 positions if they were all open at the same time. 82,000
Mm.
people versus 100 available positions. That's not going to work. Like, not at
Yeah.
all.
Right.
So you have to
Yeah.
learn to market yourself now. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So what are some resources, like where can people find this information? Obviously you have a course, but like where are some other places you would point people to go catch up on some of this stuff?
So, yeah, when it comes to the business side of things, yeah, it's tough to say where there's really good resources about this,
Or
but
even just the
I mean, there's
legality of music, because that's really what we're talking about here with you, is like where would you
Mhm.
point people to learn, if they can't get a hold of you necessarily, where can they find this information?
Yeah, no, totally. Well, there are like a lot of amazing podcasts out there that talk about this stuff. There's so many of them. I can give you links that you can put in
Let's
the
do
bottom
it.
of this thing for people to
Yeah.
check out. And that's one of them that I watch, is where I saw those clips of Nick D talking about his experience, because I think it's really great to watch other artists talk about what they've done successfully, and not in some kind of bullshit way. There's many of them that are just like they're just trying to help. One of them that is one of the most genuine out there is Russ. He's also another rapper that you may have heard of. He's extremely famous, but also not at the same time for some groups of people. It's so
Huh.
funny. But he's big on TikTok and social media, and he talks real talk about music and business and being smart with your time and all that. And so I actually think it's great to check out people that have accomplished what you want to accomplish and are being genuine and trying to help and not gatekeep information, so
Mhm.
there's a lot of resources out there. In terms of the legality of music, definitely there's some other music lawyers too on social media that
Hmm.
are worth following. There is a colleague of mine who is very successful on social media. She goes by Top Music Attorney. I don't know if you've ever seen her on
I have
TikTok.
followed her. Yeah, yeah, top music attorney. Yep.
Hmm. I believe her name's Crystal. She's amazing. She's actually uh, killing it right now because she's doing a class action lawsuit against Suno and Udio on behalf of indie
Shut.
artists and songwriters.
Oh, holy
Yeah, because
cow.
all the labels did their lawsuits, against all the
Yeah.
AI companies, but it was like, what about the rest of the indie artists? And so she's actually doing that right now. So she's a great page. I think
Whoa.
every musician that's ever released anything should go check her out because she talks about the whole process of how you can join the class action and all that stuff if it's something that you're passionate about. But just because, stuff was trained without consent. But
Right.
she's awesome. She has a YouTube channel. She talks about the legality side. She's been big into the AI stuff lately,
Mhm.
that kind of a thing. And then copyright.gov, as boring of a website as that is for people to go on,
Sure.
it really does. You can go on there and you can actually see all the recent publications. They're all free and articles and stuff, right? That
Mhm.
talk about what's happening in copyright law and all of that. And that's really where all the legal side of things stems from is copyright law and then the subsequent court cases that come out of it. But yeah, and then of course my boring technical answer, but I mean it is I usually advise somebody to consult with an actual attorney if they have like real questions about their release, just because
Yeah,
that's the best way to keep yourself safe. But
of course.
yeah, it's just the internet nowadays. There's a lot of amazing resources, but there's also a lot of terrible resources. So yes, it is important to not steer people in the wrong direction for sure. So
So ask a
uh,
specialist. That makes perfect sense.
yeah, and that's a good way. But yeah, these music business podcasts that have been popping up, there's a lot of great ones that people can go on. And yeah, and then just from that business side of things and the marketing side of things we were talking about, since it doesn't have to be music specific, just going out and finding free resources online about like just being a smart business person,
Yeah,
reading a
yeah.
book on business, like reading a book on marketing. Like I've actually learned quite a lot of amazing things from some on marketing from some YouTube channels that I watch that are not about music marketing. They're just about like how advertisers do marketing, right?
Yeah,
To consumers. And it makes
sure.
you think of things differently. So
Yeah.
yeah, just being thoughtful about like the resources that you check out and stuff,
Yeah, if you want to shoot a couple of those my way, I'll put them in the program notes for people. Stuff that you
Mhm,
enjoy and has been helpful. Speaking of things you enjoy,
mhm.
finishing a Juris Doctor is not an easy task. I mean, finishing a doctorate of any kind is not an easy task, especially while you are a creative person and you're trying to live your life. Do you have any life hacks, for folks out there that are kind of struggling the struggle that maybe helped you like keep your head together while maybe the world felt like it was falling apart?
Yes, whiskey on the rocks. No, I'm
Yeah,
kidding. Um,
that is a perfectly valid answer. That is absolutely valid.
no, yeah, I'm like, yes, I may have drank a little bit more than I should have in law school. It's very stressful. No, it's actually, I always tell everybody we got to law school and day one or two, whatever it was, the whole welcome to the school initiation thing.
Yeah.
And we had to go attend a presentation where they proceeded to show us on the slide, like, lawyers are the most likely to be alcoholics and be addicted to cocaine and most likely to commit, self exit. And
Uh-huh. Wow, that is
so,
the most
well,
political, just like, oh my God, hang on, self
I didn't know.
exit. Oh my
I
God.
didn't. I said that on here because I didn't know if I was like, I don't know what platforms you're on. I don't want you to get
I am on all the
demonetized.
platforms. Like, you can find this podcast any place where you find podcasts, but that is fucking hilarious. I have never heard it called that, and
Oh,
I'm gonna use
that's
that from
that's
now on.
like I know that's like the internet. I'm so like perpetually or chronically online or whatever. And so yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's like the term that people use online to because YouTube especially big on like they'll demonetize
Yeah.
your video instantly if you say the wrong word.
Right, right.
So that's one,
Self exit.
people also say
Unalived.
unalived.
Yeah.
They say grape instead,
Yeah, yeah, those
GRAPE.
sorts of things.
Um,
Yeah.
all the words. But anyway, yeah, I know. So I'm not I don't,
I've just
I'm not
never
always
heard that one.
I'm not always trying to be politically correct, but I was like, I don't want to get her in trouble.
Well, I
Um,
appreciate it.
but yeah, we were like, they're like, here's these things. Welcome to law school. And we were like, oh yay. Thanks so much for that, you guys.
Fun. Love
No, but it
that.
but it is a real problem. And I'm sure in your like world as well. Anybody that goes into these like higher stress areas, it's going to there's always a big possibility of like substance abuse and letting yourself go just in terms of like not taking care of your mental health and your
Mhm.
physical health and that kind of stuff. So my answers are pretty boring, but I think that taking care of your mind and body is like the biggest life hack ever that I came to learn. It's like you just if you're not able to manage stress at all, you're just never going to make it to the next step of what you're trying to make it to. And all of this is about growth in life, right? When all the stuff that we're doing. And so it's like you have to be able to, and that doesn't mean that you need to be like, Mr. Olympia or something. It just means just try to take care of yourself,
Sure.
if you try to eat a little bit more nutritious food, try to work out a little bit more, try to do all the things, try to meditate sometimes, right? I think also I struggle with this, but when it comes to that stuff, the perfectionist mindset as well, right? People think that like if they're not suddenly meditating every day or something that they're failing. And I'm like, no, if you just introduce very small things into your day that are beneficial for you, it's like it can change everything. So that would be my best advice. And then also just the point about perfection, just trying not to be a perfectionist as hard as that is, but that one
Done
also
is
just
better than perfect.
yes, and
That's
it's such
something
a
they
hard
tell
lesson to
like
learn.
every doctoral student about our dissertation. They're just like, look, we know you want it to be perfect. You're human. It's not gonna be. Finish it so that you can be called doctor, and then you can do research for the rest of your life.
Yes, I know, and it's but you're like, oh, but all the things I know,
Right? No,
and
totally.
then and yeah, and that's a big problem, of course, in law, and then also with musicians and stuff. But I mean, in law school, it would just be, not everything is going to be your forte. Not every class is going to be your best subject, right? For some reason, I did terribly in torts. I guess that was just a message from the universe to avoid that at all costs, even though it's quite simple. Um, but it was like I gave myself such a hard time about doing terrible in certain classes, and I would be like, well, I don't even know if I can go out in the world and be a lawyer if I am not well versed enough in this subject. But that's just not, it's like with everything, it just holds you back.
Well, we have weird, like preconceived notions about our specialties. I think because I felt that way too. Initially, like earlier in my career, like, oh, I could never finish a doctorate. I'm not that good. It's really not about that at all. It's really about having a passion and a keen interest in one specific subject that you just want to know as much as you can possibly know about it. And it's not about
Mhm.
being like a perfect version of whatever that job is, I guess. But no, I resonate with your assertion there for sure.
Yeah, yeah, and that just goes hand in hand with the whole imposter syndrome, and I think everybody suffers from that, right? It's like,
Right.
especially out of school, I'm like, what am I doing? I'm a professional. I have clients. Like, who
I'm
gave
a
me
real
this
human
job?
and I have to do grown up things. What? No,
Yeah,
totally.
yeah, yeah. So that's it. Just take care of yourself and don't be so hard on yourself.
So, speaking of doing things, do you have like a really quick rundown of like some do's and don'ts for making sure that what you're putting out in the world is covered legally or monetized properly?
Yes, and excuse me if I'm a broken record here from earlier,
No,
but
you're good. That we
I'm
repeat
just
things because it takes people a while for it to sit in their brain and stay there. It is totally fine if it's
yes.
repetitive.
And I'm used to this in my real life too, because I'm just like, all right, I'm just gonna tell everybody. Yeah, so get everything signed in writing, typical lawyer answer, but it's because we mean it.
Hmm.
It's just so important because the amount of times, not only do I get a lot of clients who come to me because they regretted signing something that they didn't have a lawyer look at, but on the flip side, a lot of people who come to us because they're like, we never signed anything and now I'm being screwed over.
Right.
And I regret that part of it. So I just am telling everybody, I'm like, it doesn't matter. The problem is people are like, they have their best friends in the industry and they're like, oh, they would never screw me over. And I'm like, we see the craziest shit all the time. You gotta think that anything could happen. I get
Hmm.
that you think this person's your best friend, but like, we need to put it in writing.
I was
So,
thrown under the bus by someone that I had known for a decade at one of my higher ed jobs. I had known this
mm,
person literally for a third of my life at that point, and it did not take long for her to throw me immediately under the bus with the chair of the department at the time, because she felt that we were being, bullies of some kind when we had an open door policy and invited her to every single meeting. And she was really actually just mad that we had like put an entire degree plan into the world and gotten it approved, and we tried to include her
mhm.
along the way, but we got it approved without her, and then she got all butthurt and she was just like, I'm going to report you to the administration for doing all these things that you didn't actually do so that I can be the chair. And she basically elected herself the chair of the department and got us both fired.
Oh, wow.
So if you need an
That
example
sucks.
of
I'm
your friends
sorry
fucking
to
you
hear
over,
that.
it's okay. That's part of the reason that I'm doing this podcast is a buyer
Mm,
beware. Like people
mhm.
beware that sometimes your friends are not your friends.
And that is also a very good lesson about this industry and as a whole as well
Mhm.
across the board, because yes, I have been a witness to quite a few crazy situations that I could not believe happened, of people throwing each other under the bus. It happens all the time because, especially, I don't want to call out Los Angeles in particular, but you
It
all are
happens
really
everywhere. It's not just
you are
LA.
really bad about it. I know, but I'm saying when it comes to the whole clout chasing, ladder
Ugh.
climbing thing,
Yeah.
it's pretty bad out there.
Yeah.
And I understand everybody's trying to get to the top and whatever, but it's like, God, some of the things that people will do to step on each other that they claimed to be a friend, it's pretty wild.
It really
So
is.
it's ruthless out there. So that's also, yeah, to your point. I'm like, just get it in writing. And it's like, it's just so funny. Some of the clients we work with all the time who will be like, I know, and you know I need to do that, but like they're like a brother, so it'll be fine. And I'm just like, I don't care. I don't want to hear that anymore. We're
Mm-mm.
getting it in writing.
Yep,
Jesus.
exactly.
So so yeah, that's just like a big one. And that's just everything really, like even small things. And like this doesn't, this is where people are like, oh, well, I don't always want to just hire a lawyer for the price or whatever. And I'm like, sometimes you could be smart enough to just draft a little thing on Word that just says, this is what we're doing, this is what it means, and we both sign it. Like just something that you have that proves that it's not just he said she said later on, because that's where you get a problem on your hands. So
Absolutely.
you know but obviously work with a lawyer if it's like an intricate deal and you need it done correctly, because you
Sure.
will pay more later. So that's a big do.
Mm-hmm.
um Again, broken record over here, do register your music across the board after releasing your music.
Mm-hmm.
I'm working on a free resource. It's completely free right now that I have not finished yet, but I want to make it available to everyone, like for my music log pages. That's like an indie artist musician sort of like playbook thing
Love it.
that's just going to kind of encapsulate the like what I think you should do after, like before and after you release music.
Yeah.
And in actually I can just like mention a few things that are in there right now.
Do
And
it.
there are some of them completely free posts already on my page if people want to go check that out.
Heck yes.
but but yeah, I set this up for myself as an artist because I was so tired of trying to remember what to do after and all this stuff. And so I made this little thing that's like my little administrative to-do list. And so I talk about people should archive their music after or before they release, or after the release, whatever it is, which is like requesting copies of your master recordings and your
Mm-hmm.
album artwork from whoever makes it and your videos. And I know this seems like common sense kind of, but
But it's
I don't
not.
think people think about this.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. And then store things safely on your little music vault. So an external hard drive, a cloud drive, something that can be backed up. Because like I think people would be shocked to find out when you get to bigger levels, like where you can actually end up needing to reference back to like an old master recording,
Oh yeah.
especially like if you get signed to a major record deal and they want to re-release something, like they might want to have it remixed or something. And it's like, do you have the
Absolutely.
stems?
Right.
Oh no, I don't have the stems. I don't even know what
Uh,
producer that was. It's like,
yeah, exactly.
okay, well, that's great. So yeah, I mean, having all your stuff like safely, and this is all part of the whole business side of things, and having your stuff kept safely for future reference. And like maybe you want to get, nowadays a song can blow up years after it came out, and then some DJs want to remix it. And it's like, I know we have like AI stem splitters, but maybe you want to have your stems and all that stuff.
Right.
Anyway, paperwork, that's my number 2.
Mm-hmm.
Get your agreement signed. We just talked about that, all that stuff. Register, publishing side of things, and the master and artist side of things, depending on what your role is and stuff. But just need to make sure things are registered so you don't leave money on the table.
Mm-hmm.
And then I say you can distribute and make sure that you do your distribution, your TikTok, make sure that you're in a content ID system,
Mm-hmm.
which is, I don't think a lot of people realize that just because you distribute like through a DistroKid and stuff, you're not necessarily in content ID,
Mm-hmm.
which is that fingerprinting thing in YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to make sure you're in that, and then promote. That's kind of my like general list of like the overall thing you should do as a musician when you release. So that's that. And then the other thing I say as a do is kind of like a wishful thinking one, which is just to try to be fair in your dealings with other people.
Aww.
It's so sweet.
It's so
but
benevolent.
but I just see it all the time too, where I'm like, I see a creative come to hire like a client of mine and they want to offer them like nothing up front and like maybe a small back end or something. And I'm like, you have to understand, like, I get that, like, if they're requesting $5,000 to work with you, maybe that seems like a high budget, but you know, you have to understand like where they're coming from and try to respect what they're bringing to the table. Like, you're coming to them to work on your project as creative, and especially in your field, in like that I see in the more like pop or recorded music space, right? Musicians get screwed over all the time and just get
Constantly.
paid very little session fees, or not even get paid the session fees and just get thrown like a sandwich and some
Mm-hmm.
chips for the day to come play. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then get told that they're, a work for hire and they have nothing on the back end. And yeah, it's terrible. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, I just try to encourage people to think of like, if you were in their shoes, just think about what would seem fair to you. And it can be different in different deals, but it just people get so lost in the weeds with this one all the time. And they just want to get so caught up on like on what this is. And I'm like, we're all professionals here. We're all trying to make a living doing what we love. You're trying to bring me into this thing. So you gotta like justify the value that I'm
Yeah,
bringing. You know what I mean?
absolutely.
Yeah. So those are my do's, and then my don'ts are don't release without signed writing. I know, my God, I keep saying it, but it's true.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do it.
Right.
Well, because to talk about the don't side of things specifically, it can just I don't think people also realize this, but if you don't legally have the copyright ownership in the master, which usually one person or party will own, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
the label or the artist.
Right.
And then if somebody is like, if you're trying to deal with somebody, like say you're the artist and you put out a song, a master, and the producer, you're dealing with their deal after your music came out, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're doing their deal later. Well, during the dealings, sometimes things can get heated and they might get pissed off at you, and then they actually have the leverage, not giving anybody advice to do this out there, but they have the leverage to go file like a takedown notice of your song, because
Right.
technically they have partial copyright ownership in that master until it's signed over. So I try to tell people this. I'm like, try not to release anything until like for sure that you are the only owner of that master, because then if they try to do that, there's a huge repercussion that they have to deal with under the law, which is like a false DMCA takedown,
Mm.
and you could sue them and you can get statutory damages, and so people don't want to mess with that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, anyway, that's like a lot of legal stuff, but
Yeah.
yes.
Well, that's why we're
And
here.
then that is why we're and then do not use samples without clearing them. Similarly to when you talk about covers, it's all sort of the same world, but like, God, especially in like hip hop, and then especially with so many like indie producers and beat makers and stuff nowadays, they just will use a sample and not clear it. And this happens all the way to the top. I guess I'll say allegedly to avoid any kind of like defamation stuff, but allegedly,
Mm-hmm.
Kanye West has done this many times in his career, of just releasing something knowing it was a sample and just not clearing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why people feel inclined to do that, but it's not a good idea, because again, the whole thing is then you give the other side a ton of leverage to
Right.
come at you
Yeah.
hard.
Uh-huh.
So it's just not a good idea. So if you're going to use, so I try to encourage people, like, you don't need to use samples in your music. There's a prominent producer that I used to work with who was big on like, he just never used samples in anything he did. He had musicians that he had on his team that created everything from scratch, which I
Weird.
love.
Hire a musician. Please pay us. That's what we want to do.
Right. And crazy that you could come up with something really catchy that's not just like from 50 years ago that you reworked, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Like, yeah. And so you don't have to I mean, there's nothing against using samples for sure, but I don't think people also understand, like, if you're going to use samples in your work, what you're up against when it comes to the sample owners, especially if
Mm-hmm.
they're like the major labels and the publishers. I mean, they're out here taking 75 to 90% of the royalties on the back end, right? Like, you're
Sweet
getting
Jesus. Yes.
nothing on the back. So I don't, so it's like, it's almost like not worth it unless it's like a very significant sample, but sometimes
Right.
you'd be shocked at like what people are sampling. And then my last don't is don't lie about using AI in your work when you're distributing.
Oh,
This
like
one,
honesty is a good policy? What? That's so weird. Who would have thought?
but this one I have no hope for, unfortunately, because the because you're asking. This is an honor system thing, right? You have
Right.
DistroKid and all the others, and they're like, click the box if you used AI and tell us what you used it for. Well, if somebody has the choice not to, and they're not worried about fingerprinting at the moment or whatever, who's really going to say they are if they think it's going to stifle their promo or their ability to push the music, right? So I don't have a lot of faith in this one, because it's humanity at the end of the day on the internet, and
Yeah.
they will lie if they have the chance to. So
Facts.
um Yes, and I may or may not be familiar with certain music that is completely made with AI that's out there in the world right now that they said was not. So,
Of course.
uh, yeah, of course. And so I don't know. This one's a tough one, and with AI, I'm just so I'm one of those people that's kind of a hater. I'm pretty push back against it just because I'm such an artist and human advocate,
Yeah.
and
Oh, same.
I just I'm like I just don't want a world filled with computers creating our music. Like, what is that? It's a
I
uniquely human experience, but
Yeah, exactly. Well, and so like my fiance works in tech, and we are sort of collectively anti AI in many ways. But really, like my position on it, and I think he and I share this, is just like make the AI do the menial, stupid shit that no one wants to do, so that creative people can do creative things. Why is that hard for
exactly.
us as a society?
Capitalism and greed.
Oh yeah, the
Unfortunately,
the
it's
the usual answers for sure.
which like I'm okay with some capitalism, but it's just the of course our typical greed that we let go out of control. The tech companies will do whatever they can, which from their perspective, I'm like, okay, I do see how this could be $1 trillion idea for you, but at what cost?
Right.
And within a few months of OpenAI releasing that Sora platform, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
TikTok is flooded with just like crap, just
Mm-hmm.
slop, and people are like, what are we doing? But yeah, it's a it's a tough one with AI. But I would just encourage people, don't lie about it. Just be
Right.
honest about it, because here's a maybe an encouraging reason to actually tell the truth on it, which is if you try to develop a fan base online, because fans are always going to be everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're the ones interacting.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to misconceive, or you don't want to mislead people into thinking that you're not an AI artist and you are,
Mm-hmm.
because when they find out, then they're going to be pissed and they're probably going to reject you really hard. But if you're honest about it from the beginning, then maybe people will be like, I don't care.
Yep.
I like your music, you know?
Exactly. Yep.
So
Nope, that's totally it.
that's my advice.
Hell
Yeah.
yeah. Well, thank you so much. And thank you so much for like spending all of this time with us. I know that like time is money in everyone's world, but we really appreciate it because you've filled in so many of the gaps in knowledge for so many creative people, even in just this little hour. So thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Last question. If you
Hmm.
were a flavor of ice cream, what flavor of ice cream would you be and why?
Okay, let me think. I want to make sure it's a good answer. Mhm. Mhm. Okay, definitely dark chocolate,
Mm,
because I'm a big fan. I as a kid I was milk chocolate, but as an adult, milk
yeah, you
chocolate's a
grow
lot.
up.
So
Yeah.
dark chocolate, I because I'm just chocolate's my favorite flavor.
Uh-huh.
But I would say dark chocolate's got like it's a pretty sophisticated taste. I like to
Mm,
think I'm a little sophisticated,
of
a
course, of course.
little bougie as
Mm-hmm.
lawyers can be.
Indeed.
Um, a little bitter, not bitter towards other people, but maybe just a little, you know, sassiness in there. My
Well, and
my
you have to
opinions
do
in
the hard
general.
job. You have to tell people that they fucked up.
Yes,
So that's
with a smile on
understandable.
my face.
That's where that could be where the bitter comes in.
Yes. Yes. Oh, but I do want to say, I think I would be a coffee flavored chocolate, espresso,
Ooh. Oh.
espresso, dark chocolate.
Okay.
That's it. Because I'm also just like highly caffeinated at all times, and
We are
it's
sponsored
just
by a coffee company, so do check them out.
oh
Yeah, we're
yes,
sponsored by Hideaway Coffee in Fort Wayne, Indiana. I always do a read for
I
them at
love
the
that.
end, but I worked at Sweetwater with the husband of the woman who is the like roaster at the company, and she comes from like
Oh,
coffee family.
nice.
So if you would like to get more caffeinated, you should definitely visit them.
Yes, please. I'm always trying to get more caffeinated, and I love like a good, whole roasted bean that I can then like make it do an espresso roast, because when you buy those like pre-made espresso roasts, but all caffeine.
Absolutely.
So put that in there, dark chocolate espresso, and then sprinkle a little chili pepper on top of that thing, because
Ooh.
I do have some sass and some heat behind me that comes out sometimes. So
Nice. Love
yeah,
that.
that would be it. Hmm.
Hell yeah. Well, dude, thank you so much. That was honestly probably one of the most thorough ice cream answers we've experienced on this show to date. So thank you so much
Oh, I'm
for
so
being a
glad.
good
I
man
didn't
and
want to be boring.
thorough. Dig it, dude.
So happy to do
Awesome.
that.
Well,
Thanks.
thanks again. And if
Yeah.
we don't hear from you in the meantime, have a happy holiday and a lovely new year.
Yes, you as well. Happy holiday to you and all of your listeners. And thanks so much for having me. It was really a blast.
Hopefully you were able to get some good information from the TikTok music law guy. Thanks so much for listening. And as always, give us a follow on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all the places where you enjoy social media. And if you're looking for some caffeination, as Josh just said, we do have a sponsor. They are Hideaway Coffee of Fort Wayne. So if you go to their website, that's HYDE Away Coffee of Fort Wayne, Indiana, put in Rogue 10 at the checkout for 10% off your favorite blend and get caffeinated and make some music. But make sure you register it before you put it out there. Anyway, thanks again for listening to the Rogue Academic Podcast. We will see you next time. Have a great day, guys.